You ready?
She just told me
She's
the
ready.
house is running. Okay, and I've been.
Mr. Barone, can we start on time?
I'm just trying to make
Might be one time? No.
a good time in marriage. and I
We'll
always
call
be
this meeting
busy
to
and
order.
always be-
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll get it, yeah.
Maybe get everybody's attention.
You
You're
what?
welcome, thanks, Mike.
Hello.
I thought you were supposed to be there now.
He's on his way.
You, in front of you.
I'm not saying.
He's gonna move that over. Let's call this meeting to
If you would-
order.
If you would go to the village
A
board.
little bit of that. Yeah, Danny can start the,
It's sad.
start
We
the
watch every
meeting.
Monday night.
I'm out here.
See, Mike?
We talked.
Oh, really? He didn't even have a chance to
Oh,
that. So,
Thanks
we
for
are now
making our
5:01.
agenda shorter.
May we have the roll call, please?
Van Campen,
Here.
Frisch. Here. Herman,
Present.
Miller,
Present.
Knutson,
Here.
and Dave Jameson is absent. All right, thank you.
He's absent. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Item 3, the approval of the November 15th, 2022 minutes. It was in the packet. Covered our meeting from November 15th. Any comments, questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Do we have any other further discussion on it? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Item 4, public appearance. This is the opportunity for anybody to address the park board. It can be anything in regards to its agenda or anything that's not on the agenda. I see nobody unless we have a few guests.
Quite the
that form.
turnout tonight.
Well, maybe, Jeff, it had to do with the rain and the snow forthcoming, but probably not. We've had people in that.
It's
So,
December.
hearing none, move on to item 5. Reports to the village officers. 5A, Director of Public Reports, regard to the J.C. Park development and the Dish Park progress and any
Yeah.
other matters.
Always love talking about these things. These are the kind of the fun things. In fact, I was just talking to someone earlier this evening who was just giving glowing remarks on how nice J.C. Park is looking. And I think it's been fun to see some of the things come together. Now, I will tell you this, not everyone feels that J.C. Park is a beautiful place right now because they liked the trees and stuff, and I think that'll come over time, but a lot of things were able to get buttoned up. We were able to get some growth started. We're just praying that that can last through the winter and not get killed off or burned out or anything. But that's all on the contractor right now. But it's really coming together and looking nice. We'll still have the backstops to put up. Those are some tall poles that will go up on each area, and that'll change the landscape. But I don't know if you've seen that the walkway lights are up. They're not on yet, but really nice kind of scaled, not super tall lights, so it's very walk friendly, I guess, would be the term. And of course, the flagpoles, we were talking about that a little bit. The flagpole arrangement is to accommodate 9 flags. So it's a U.S. flag in the center, POW, to one side, and the state flag on the other, and then the 6th Armed Forces. And anybody know the new 6th Armed Force?
The Air
That-
Force.
Space
Or, I mean,
Force.
Space Force.
Space Force, yes,
yeah.
that was a decision we had to make to kind of say, okay, well, this is an official force, so we need to make sure we accommodate everything. So,
It's on there.
huh?
It was in the Army-Navy games, so it made a lot of awareness of the
Right,
Space Force.
right. It's kind of a cool looking flag, actually. It's kind of somewhere between Star Trek and something, but,
It isn't up yet, is it?
huh?
Have you put it up yet or not?
Not the flags, no,
Okay.
no, the flags have been ordered and everything, but, so that project will kind of pick up again in the spring with trying to finish all the landscaping, any plantings that still have to happen in the biofiltration basins, some punch list items, like I said, the backstops, finish some of the fencing and the gates. The pickleball, courts will have to be, that epoxy stuff that goes down to make the courts and everything. So, I mean, there'll be some finished stuff, but I think that's moved along really, really well, and they got a lot done before the winter. Any questions on J.C. Park before I move on?
I don't know if anybody's seen Steve Piatter and Randy Glish on Facebook.
Yeah, I saw that. Is
They
that
were
a
on a
new,
video-
is that
huh?
a new donation of $100,000?
That's what I want to know too, because I thought
Yeah,
they
no.
originally
I don't think so. I think it's when he signed up for it. I was gonna ask Lisa myself.
Yeah,
But
I was
he-
gonna
he-
ask Randy, I forgot to ask him earlier, so.
Yeah, I don't think
but
it's new. I think it's
Okay.
the
Yeah.
same thing.
I was hoping it was new.
I was hoping that too. That's what I was
But-
gonna ask about.
So, Dish Park is, actually, we're gonna call it Gary Dish Park, just to be, other,
Everybody knows him by Gary.
huh?
Everybody knows him by Gary.
Everybody knows him by Gary.
Yeah.
And so, actually, we just ordered the sign this last week, and, that'll go in this spring. I would like, at the time when we do it this next spring, to have maybe a park board and the family meet up there and just kind of do a ribbon cutting dedication, and honor Gary with that. I don't know if you guys would be
I'd love
supportive,
to.
Yeah.
supportive of that. I
Yeah.
figured that's a no-brainer kind of thing,
You
but,
bet.
glad to see that. But that park actually started to grow in nicely, and the developer came to us and asked if they could plant some spruce trees along MM. He was
nice.
having some complaints from some of the neighbors up there on the highway noise. And so we did not turn him down planting free trees on our property, and so it doesn't affect the park play or anything like that. So
Great.
I think it's turned out really nice. The other thing I just want to bring up real quick is we're still calling it J.C. Park. I don't know if this is something, I've brought this up a couple times to the park board. The J.C.'s are no longer in the village. This is an opportunity, if there's an opportunity to rename the park, we had offered up naming rights for, I think we had lowered it down to $200,000. And we had hit up a few donors, one we were just talking about, but no one's really taken that opportunity yet. I do think this is an opportunity to rename the park. Originally, it was called Central Park. If you go back in the original concept plans and everything for the village, that's a kind of a very nice neutral name. But is that something that the park board would like to discuss? I mean, this is not something coming from staff level. I think it should come from the park board. You guys are the entity overseeing that. But I've not seen kind of anything going forward with that.
That's what I was hoping Steve was doing.
Huh?
That's what I was hoping Steve was doing with the,
Right.
because he
Yeah, I
did, he
know.
already offered
I
the
know.
100, now there's, they're
I think
talking
one
today.
community bank park would be excellent.
I do too.
But,
I'd be glad to call him.
I had heard from John Blanchard, and he knew the history more of the J.C.'s and how they got that started and all the labor that was put in to create all the parks.
What-
And he was very passionate that it should remain as a
It should
J.C.
remain.
Park, so.
Okay.
So he had called me directly and said he had heard it because it was brought up.
Which
once
had to have been
before.
back in the mid-seventies.
I do
Probably
like
when,
Central
probably
Park.
76 is when I think the park went in.
Better than the bank.
Just so you know, I mean, at that time, I
But
mean,
if we're gonna
that's
get 200
over
grand
50
out of
years
them.
ago, or almost 50 years ago. You know, there's no agreement that says it needs to be kept that way. And everyone knows it as J.C. Park, so that's easy, but it's just a time if you want to make a change. As long as it's not Rowell Memorial Park,
What do you think?
I'm good.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, I know what kind of pushback you got from families that were involved in some of those other playing fields when either the playing fields went away or they're getting renamed, you know, there too. So
On one of them, yes.
yeah, so I mean, I can imagine that there's gonna be pushback from people like John and other things, you know, if you take the name JC off of it, but you rename things all the time.
Yeah,
You know,
Exactly.
And especially when you're out here redeveloping it, it's a perfect time, like you said, to rename it. So I'd be open to entertain, you know, possibilities of doing it. You know, I don't have much more to say on it than that.
I'm also, would be in favor of renaming it. I think, in deference to a gentleman that Marcus talked to, and J.C.'s in general, maybe a plaque could put up at some point and say, this park originally developed by, it was J.C. Park, so that at least there'd
Yeah.
be some acknowledgement.
We
But I-
will have a memorial wall on the concession stand.
Oh,
sure, so we could put it that it was Central Park in certain years and then put down J.C. Park
Yeah,
these years and
Sure.
then, and now, But I think we should wait maybe till spring when we're ready to open and see if we can get some more.
Well,
I'll make some phone calls.
I would recommend that you look at this in January, February,
Okay,
because, you know, we're gonna be building a concession stand. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And we'll be working on the wall and memorials and all that type of stuff. By the time we hit spring, summer, it's gonna be, things are gonna be kind of well laid out, you know, and if there's a time to be, we'll be working on signage and all that kind of stuff. So we'll wanna kind of have that in
Okay.
place before early summer, I hope.
I mean, if you wanna look at, you know, a good example, just look downtown. I mean, you can look at any building down there and they have a plaque on it that says this
Yep.
used to be this building. So-
Formerly the McDermott
So,
Building.
I mean, I
Mhm.
think that it's important to acknowledge the history that's
Mhm.
there, but
Yep.
it's also an opportunity to move forward.
I agree.
So if we, you know, work to consider a different name, and I'm assuming that wouldn't just emanate from us, unless maybe Central Park is the way we wanna go.
It-
I mean, if we put it out to the public, that's gonna take 6 months.
Right.
6 months and 1,000 ideas.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and Bodie make both of these or whatever.
oh, yeah, because we can vote on it in January, February, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a couple people I'd like to ask quick and see what I can figure out.
Okay,
I'm sure. Yeah, Mark, I think I shared this with you guys in the past, but, when I lived in Charlottesville, Virginia, where I was going to grad school, I was on the park board for the city of Charlottesville, and I was there during the Unite the Right rally and the KKK stuff, but anyways, we had 2 parks that were named after Confederate generals, and the city took it upon themselves to obviously want to rename those and, kind of give them a new identity. We went with some pretty generic, you know, Central Park, Library Park kind of a names, but I think what they ended up doing was having kind of a short list of names that we ended up putting out in a community survey, and people just voted on, but they didn't get a choice to add something else, but there
Yeah.
were 5 or 6, you know, choices, and then we just sort of went with what was most popular, but we knew that park board and then the city council was supportive of any of those options, and then people still gotta say that you didn't fully open Pandora's box.
yeah.
Everything, so maybe that's something we can wait January, February, see if any other sponsors rise to the top, otherwise,
Okay,
you know, staff can work with park board to create kind of a short list, and then we
Yeah.
can share that with the board and maybe do a quick,
Yeah.
survey monkey or something else. in the
Yeah,
community.
we've been waiting for large donors for 3-4 years, 3.5, 4 years now.
Mm,
and
yeah,
so-
we have been, yeah,
Huh?
we have been.
So, I mean, I'm not anticipating someone just to come out of the blue, with that, but
Yeah.
you never know. I mean, stranger things have happened and stuff, but,
Maybe Hy-Vee Park.
What park?
don't put that in the
Hy-Vee.
minutes.
We've seen that with other schools. The schools have done that. They've offered it up, gave a short list, and came
Yeah.
up with names. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a
Yeah.
couple of the middle and elementary schools. I think RCA was
Yeah.
generated from that, Forest Edge.
The bids for the concession building came back on Thursday. We opened those this last Thursday. And by changing, taking off the second floor and taking off some of the architectural treatments and just making it a single story, the layout's pretty much the same, other we actually gained some storage room because we didn't have the stairwell now. We went from just under $1 million to $700,000. So it was a $300,000 shift, which was really good. In today's bidding market, we had originally thought it'd be about a $500,000 building, 500 to 600. So we figured 7 is not too bad by today's standards.
So is that already named?
The building?
Yeah,
No, it's just going to have a wall. It's not going to have any kind of name on it. It'll have a recognition wall.
I
okay.
think they did, OCB did sponsor the
Yeah.
concession building.
No,
Yeah,
I thought it was.
Randy told me that.
No, I think it was the field.
Yeah, a field, but
The main
then,
I
field.
think it's both.
Okay.
I think it's both.
We'll find out,
Mhm.
yeah. Right now, it's just the concession building,
Okay,
the Snickers snack
yeah.
shack. That's what we'll call it. But we hope to see that, we'll be awarding that hopefully on Monday night of the village board meeting. And then construction will go through spring and into early to midsummer. There's really no rush on it right now.
How many bidders did you have?
With 3 bidders.
How much of a variance between the bids?
the the low bid and the second bid were within, I think, $5,000, $5 or $6, $7,000, and they were right around that 700 range. Actually, I can tell you right now, here, let me just look this up here.
It's always an interesting reflection, certainly in today's world, because some of the costs are going back down again, but some are looking at it, so it's all over.
Yeah,
I always find it
so,
interesting how close some of the bids do get.
Well, and it's also curious if they really wanted it, because that's reflective in their bid too.
Some
Yeah.
bidders don't come
Yeah,
back.
so
Yeah, they
here,
don't want it.
here you
Well,
can
or you bid it
see-
at $1 million.
So this is with, the low bidder was Bauer and Rather Builders. And then they did offer us a small voluntary donation, which is nice. We'll recognize that on our wall. So total bid of $698,910. And the second one was $707, so, you know,
What's the
less than
names? Can you-
$10,000. And then the third one was at $804,000. So that was Joe
Where's
Daniels.
the, I don't wanna do it, but
Bauer and
Yeah.
Rather, yeah.
I don't know any of us except Joe Daniels.
So, yeah. So that's what we got going on in the parks. Any other, you've probably noticed, did anyone notice the little ice rink going on out in Rustic Vineyards?
no, I wondered
I
about
noticed
that.
another one over at.
The
Oh, is that
boards
right?
are up. Yeah, I've seen 3 of them in town now.
Is it three?
Oh,
Well, not in the parks. just
There's
one
two
in
on
the
Ash
parks.
Street,
Right.
well, right around
There's one off of Ash.
Ash and
then there's
Jefferson. There's one off of
Pine-
Ash and
Pine Way.
Pine, yeah.
And so I think that's gonna become
They
more
need
of a
snow and
popular
freeze before.
You just need
thing,
ice,
and
just
maybe,
cold.
maybe we try to do that sometime in JC Central Park.
Whatever park.
Yeah,
I like the name
park
Central.
formerly known as JC Park, it'd be like Prince. We'll make it a symbol you can't pronounce. That's all I
Well,
got.
that's good. Wish Nick a lot of luck on that, so.
Yeah.
So 5B, update on the comprehensive outdoor recreational plan, status and schedule. There's content information in the packet as well.
Yes, thanks, Mark. So, we included the scope and kind of schedule and, cost estimates from Vanwall for both the comp plan and the corp plan. So Jeff, if you can scroll down to page 14 in the
can.
packet, I think that's where the park, plan stuff starts. So
Yep.
this is just kind of fleshing out what you all saw in, I think your October meeting where we went through those different tiers and made a recommendation for the middle of the road standard option. The board gave us the thumbs up for that, so Vanwall's given us the scope, so these are the different tasks, they're sort of different sections, so first section is really community engagement, then the second section is really, doing the draft writing of the plan itself, and then the third kind of section here is, wrapping up the final draft, doing public open house, and having the park, board and village board ultimately adopt the plans. So, there is an optional task, we talked about this before, they can do an interactive online park and trail map. That's also something we can choose to do later, or we could, look at doing in-house, so. We'll present this to the board on Monday night too, but that is something they wanna add. You know, that cost will be included, again, it could be added later, so they just wanted to let us know that that's still, an option to add on, at any point. And then below that is a table of the different work elements that are broken into those 3 sections, and then which staff they have assigned to those, approximately how many hours, and they kind of break out the cost and stuff there too. So, in that table, it also explained, you know, there would be a series of different, focus group interviews, and then, some in-person, you know, kickoff meeting, online public survey. So a lot of this will be done, again, in tandem with the comprehensive plan. The focus group interviews, I think, they're planning to all happen on the same day. I'm not sure if that would be a weekday or weekend day. We'll get some comments from the board too, and if you guys have any thoughts about that. But there will be a series of different focus groups. Some will be, you know, just kind of park and rec focused, and some will be more broad with the comp plan focus, but those will likely, again, all happen in one day, probably like 45-minute focus group interviews with a small group, maybe, you know, 5 to 7 people or so in each group, and then a bit of a break, and then move on to the next one. So, the planners from Vanderwall will be at the board meeting on Monday night too, so they can answer some more specific questions, but if you have any, I can try to answer or, come back with some more information in January to your meeting.
Park board members, any comments, questions?
This is for the 5-year one,
Yes.
24 to 28 or whatever it is, okay.
We covered the comp plan too or not? That's,
No, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I looked at their, your examples that they had for the interactive maps. I guess it was more than I was expecting, you know, just for what they had, the in-depth in it. I mean, I was looking at the idea of, you know, just throwing a Google, you know, like a My Google map together, you know, for it, for what we would need, but, I was, I guess, impressed with some of the stuff they had on there and how in-depth they would go, so. I don't know how much it would get used. It's one of those things where is that juice worth the squeeze, you know, to spend the $4,000, you know, to get that, to have 6 people look at it, but people aren't gonna look at it if it's not there either,
Right,
so.
yeah, you're kind of talking like some of the maps that are up there for like the, Bethfish
Your
Creek.
samples.
Yeah.
of ones.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it's something we could add on later or towards the end of the project if we feel like this is gonna, you know, we've heard from people that, hey, it'd be great to have something a little more interactive. I also know, Tanner, who's our new chamber director, he's actually looking at putting together an interactive, visitor map. It's something, Stoughton has where it actually is, it's on ArcGIS online and you can click around and you can zoom in and, you know, I just wanna look for restaurants and.
Yeah, if you could
pull that
filter
in.
stuff like that, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
So we may have the resources either in-house to do something, or again, if that feels like something that gets used and we have a better, you know, we can figure out visibility, you know, where that needs to be on the
Sure.
village website or on, you know, the chamber's website, it can be a good link to.
Well, I mean, I think if you could put as much stuff on there and filter it out, it would be great. I mean, so that way you have the, you know, the visitor map in there, but then you also have the parks in there because people would be interested in that. And
Yeah,
then why stop there? Why not add, you know, put the link to the park reservation? So if you click on that park, you can go, oh, I want to reserve this because now I know it's there. Then I have a link to get to the reservation system, you know.
yeah.
There I see more people using it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking of like to see what like Tanner can build out for the visitor map, and then yeah, if we could just have one central location
Mhm.
that's got all the Oregon information rather than.
Yeah, a map
park
for this, a
map
map for
and-
this,
yeah,
right.
Exactly.
No,
But
I
still
agree.
have it on the village and the chamber both, so it's be both there, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it does look pretty slick.
Mhm.
is this what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's nice to be able to click on a property and then you get the information for that
You can
park and then what are
reserve
the
it.
amenities and, you know, I love pictures when I'm looking at that stuff too, because I want to see what the playground structure looks like.
Well, they do have a really nice grid that has all the parks on it, and,
Oh, I've got that, yeah.
yeah. and the
No,
acreage is-
I know, but it's not
Yeah,
that intuitive with it.
and you can't reserve it,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you're doing a
we
website
could
that's mobile friendly
map
too, then you
this.
can use it off the device, so mobile device. Any other questions, comments from,
One other thing just to mention, we, kind of alongside this, and I can chat with Randall kind of about, once this is approved by the board, we'll have a more specific schedule of these focus groups are happening in March on this date, and this is who's invited and everything, but I think we will try to schedule some more, park kind of site visits for the park board, if you guys are interested in that. Leah and I met with the Rotary guys from Lerner Park, a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about, getting the park board and some other maybe board members out there too, especially as we're moving into, we wanna do a west side parks master plan in '24, so making sure that people have been out to some of those spaces as things warm up and dry out a little bit in the spring. And then, yeah, doing a bit of a tour, to some of our other parks, so we'll see if we can do some of that.
when it gets really cold, you can go a lot farther in Lerner Park. than
This
you
is
can-
true,
Yeah.
yeah. You guys have snowshoes, we can go really far, so,
Just still be careful, there are some icy spots that'll break through and get a soaker out of it, which I did.
it's a good spot to be a duck.
Is there any particular action that Vanderwall is asking of the park board, other than populating some of these focus groups or making tours?
Yeah, not at this point, just providing an update on, this is what you all have recommended, this is what the board approved for the scope, and then again, we're just sharing with the board more for information and questions and making sure that there are no other major changes. You know, we wanna have 2 full days of focus groups, or we wanna have some of these, optional items added on so that we can really just cement what the schedule and scope will look like before we hit the ground running in January.
Okay. Any other comments from the park
Yeah,
board?
I just have one more.
Andy.
I just want to restate something that I said a couple months ago, but I think it's important, you know, you have your focus group with the sports people, and then you have focus group with the more passive recreation, because you're gonna get completely different, ideas from them as well, so.
Yeah, and that's what we haven't, you know, quite discussed within, well, like, what exactly will
Mhm.
the kind of topics of each focus group be, but yeah, I just wanna make sure that, yeah, they're productive conversations and it's not
It's
a
not,
lot
it's
of
not,
this during the meeting, cause you're not gonna get.
yeah, I mean, I'd rather not have them all together at the same, but, you know, like, have a sports focused one, have a passive,
active
you know, that
recreation.
way you can actually get in there and get ideas from those groups.
Yeah, no, definitely, I'll pass that forward, thanks.
Very good, thank you, Elise, appreciate that. So, moving on to 6, communication and miscellaneous business, 6A, discussion recommendations regarding park reservation systems and fees, presented by
Yeah.
Leanne Rowe.
Alright, we're gonna do a little switcheroo here.
Technology transfer.
Other side?
Board management.
Yeah.
I think so.
You know, they look on TV and make it look really easy just to throw things up on the
Right,
screen.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
One,
There we go.
All right, so I have put together an entirely new proposal as far as proposed parks and facility fee structure. Thank you, everybody, for your input last time. I took a lot of that into consideration. And so tonight I present to you just something a bit more broad. So without further ado, I think the biggest change going forward is that I think we are going to stick with ActiveNet rather than switch to RecDesk. Dave Jamison and I met, and he showed me all the potential that ActiveNet has that isn't currently being used. So we figured at the very least we could finish out our contract with them. So for the time being, we're gonna stick with ActiveNet. So as far as the shelter fee rental, just a summary, the tiers are still in place. We start with tier 1, which just has every amenity you can think of: bathrooms, parking, electricity, water. The big difference in these fees that you'll see is I lowered the rate for the Oregon residents, and I made the rate for non-residents a tad higher. Apparently, I was informed that we get a lot of traffic from Madison and surrounding areas because we were so cheap.
Yeah.
Well, free is pretty cheap.
Free is
pretty
cheap,
cheap. And then also, last time I presented community organizations, you know, sanctioned versus non-sanctioned. I just did one big umbrella of community organizations. And I think maybe to keep it sort of black and white, just if they can present us with a tax exemption number, then we consider it a community org and they can use the facilities free of charge.
I think it looks perfect then when I'm looking up here.
Sorry?
You like it?
I do, I like it.
You like it? Okay.
I like it.
Oh, Judy's happy.
Wow,
Judy's happy.
thank you.
If Judy's happy, everybody's happy.
So then we go down to tier 3, which is just your very basic shelters.
No, go ahead. No, you're good. I'm just asking.
And then also the specialty one, which is the Waterman Triangle Park. I still kept that one just a tad high, just because it is so special.
Where's Matson? That one I don't recognize.
It's, so I learned from the last comp study, the last park comp study,
Yeah.
that it is technically Madsen Memorial and Waterman Triangle
Oh,
Or-
they're,
I
And
believe.
Memorial is the
And then they
cannon.
come
Oh.
together to form
Yeah.
the
oh, okay,
triangle.
so it's
is
one,
what I
it's not one,
believe.
it's
Yes.
one park.
Yes,
Okay,
yep,
Yeah, It's a
Got it.
little circle there, I think is Manson
yep.
Park.
mhm.
Right.
okay.
And
Oh.
then- And then the rest of it's
We
triangle.
went through
It's
this
wa-
the
yeah,
other day
Waterman
with water
Triangle.
billing.
Yeah.
Because we
Tried to
found
put
out
that
there's
down.
water usage at Matson Memorial.
Yeah,
It's on-
there is, yep.
Tried to figure
Up
out where
near
it was
the
coming
intersection.
from.
There's a fountain there.
Yeah.
Every day.
So, I think this is where some of the biggest, changes occurred. So we just kind of lumped together all of the athletic facilities, the diamonds, the fields, and the courts. And, so I kind of wrote just little notes on the side there. How we proceed with sports organizations is still kind of up in the air. Do we want to do what we've done before, where they come here and it's almost like a draft? They say, I want this weekend, and we approve. Or should we switch to something a bit more informal and just, they email me, we want Fall Fury to be this weekend. So whichever way we proceed, we can decide at a later point. But they will just be charged one lump sum, which we have yet to determine what that will be, and that will just cover their usage for the year. All their games, all their practices, and that will just be based on their usage from the year prior. So the higher the usage, the higher the fee. And then, so these fees listed over here are for those who are just private residents who want to host a birthday party baseball tournament and reserve a field, or, reserve a pickleball court to try it out. So community organizations, this is where it got a bit tricky. So the difference between these community organizations and the sports organizations is that the community ones don't charge their participants to, how do I phrase this, to attend. So this is more for, let's say the park board wants to have a softball tournament, then,
Right.
you would be able to do so at no charge. And then, so,
This includes pickleball?
correct.
Okay.
So a lot of the payment policies are the same as before. The one thing is that I did get rid of, at last point, I proposed a temporary shelter fee as well as an alcohol fee. I got rid of those, because we do have like a credit card on file or a deposit check to hold. So then if we do incur any damage, we have that as a backup rather than the small fees. We do still have half of the payment being non-refundable, just because we want people to book only what they think they're going to use. So hopefully that will help prevent that. And then just a small fee for additional picnic tables, just because Public Works has to deliver those, set them up, and then also it's wear and tear
That's fair.
on our equipment. And that is,
Okay. Any questions from the park board?
I'm liking it. The only thing I would recommend that when said you were, Deb worked hard to get all the sports groups to work together.
yeah.
I would bring them all together
Okay.
like you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody gets along and say, okay, I don't need it this day. Okay, I can give this up to get this, and they work very well together now. So
Okay.
I hate to just have it out there and grab what you want,
Right.
when, when Deb's really worked hard on that. So I think you should keep that the same.
Okay.
Still a lot of value having community interaction.
I
People
give a
really-
lot of value, because then they know each other as coaches, and if they need to call and switch things around, they can. So,
They have a
yeah,
relationship before any conflict.
absolutely, yeah.
So Judy, just to clarify what that kind of looks like and what your expectations are, so there's a couple different things that have happened in the last few years with COVID and then kind of before that, and I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page about what your involvement, I guess, park board should be. So I think in the past, there was kind of a meeting, whether it was the January, February meeting, all the sports
They
organizations
don't need
were
to come here.
invited. They would come, but I
She
think a
can
lot of
take care of
people
it.
had a hard time, getting here, being on the same night, and then it was sort of, well, here's all this information, we want this weekend, we want these, practices on Thursdays, and it was kind of you still have to sort through all that information and find where are the conflicts. Maybe they haven't talked to each other, or, it was kind of arbitrary, I guess, for the park board to decide, well, yay to this, but nay to that. What Deb created was that Excel sheet that Alex worked on this year too with the school district office, and it was the sports orgs could see what everybody else was putting in. It was a Google sheet, so you can make changes, but you could also see if somebody else went in and deleted somebody else's request. But people put in, this is when we want to have Fall Fury, this is when we want to have, our ultimate frisbee practice, and here's our request, and then they had to put them in by a certain date. Then Deborah Alex went through and looked for points of conflict, put all those reservations in, and then, later in the spring, March, April, then open things up to the public for their, summer baby showers or whatever. And that's kind of how it's worked in the past. And then another option again is Megan can send out an email and say, here's the new system, please send me your request in an email by X date. Then she can kind of put all that into her own spreadsheet, or so there's lots of different ways we can do it. We could, if we do it more on kind of a staff side, we can certainly update you all too and say, we've
And
got the request.
that's why she's hired, so we don't have to do that.
Yeah, so I want to make sure you guys weren't expecting that we have one meeting everybody has to come to, but I do agree that, people have worked really well together, and I don't think there's as much butting heads that there used to be, and I think a lot of these parents are involved in multiple organizations, so they understand that, football gets they've traditionally been at this park, these nights, and this is the fall sport, this is spring sport, so they kind of work out a lot of those conflicts on their own, and I think it's been kind of nice where they can just, talk to each other, and then, so.
What's the idea on enforcement?
For reservations?
Like somebody reserves a picnic shelter or something like that. Will there be a sign out there that, for like a Saturday or a Sunday, that shows these are the times and?
So that's why the shelter rentals only have a full day fee, because I was thinking about the logistics of how would I enforce, somebody has it in the morning and then another person has it in the afternoon. It's not feasible for me
What
to.
happens with the garbage?
Exactly,
They fill the garbage up. Yep.
exactly. So that's why I figured we would just start with the full day, not have to deal with that. As far as the fields go, where there is the half day versus the full day option, that may just have to be something we learn about as we go.
Yeah.
So-
In some cases, you're better off, instead of trying to put it in place, you end up seeing what happens. and-
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Develop-
But it'll be out on the system, so they can look, is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, what was that?
It'll be out on the system, so if I wanted to see if anybody was there, I could look on the system?
With ActiveNet, I don't believe so. That was the Rec Desk system that had that big master
Okay.
calendar. But ActiveNet, I don't believe the public will be able to see who has what reserved. They'll be able to see that it is reserved, but not by who.
Okay.
Is there a way to export that into a standalone calendar or a different calendar?
I would imagine there is.
I mean, you
yeah.
would think there'd be a way, if you're gonna report it to someone else, I mean, you'd be able to find it,
Absolutely.
so. I mean, it's something to look into.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
First, I just wanna say thanks for, listening to all of us talk at you, last month, cause it was a lot of information and a lot of changes. I really like the changes that you made.
Thank you.
I'm gonna echo what Jeff said too, what is the enforcement of the reservation? Because if I go somewhere, I have a piece of paper or something on my phone
Right.
that says I have it reserved, the person that's gonna be there for a shot, they're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Then what? Do I call Jeff? Do I call the village president?
That's why I'm asking. That's why I'm
I mean,
asking.
so I'm
Yeah.
just, I'm curious with that too, I mean,
Yeah.
if you can go out and place a sign that the shelter is reserved, the night before or the day before, that's great.
Right.
Again, we're running under the assumption that everybody's gonna get along in the community, and most times it happens. I think as far as all of the sports groups coming together and doing the reservations, I don't think that's anything the park board has to get involved with. So I like how they've been doing it, or if you start with that, and then say, hey, email me with whatever other requests you have. I guess my only thought there is just to make sure it's equitable, that everybody has the same access.
Absolutely.
Don't say, okay, well, you have to come to a meeting, but hey, email me. We want to make
Right.
sure it's
Yeah.
the same
Mhm.
access for everybody going with that.
So to get an access, did you just go in and then just sign up? Is that what you do?
Yep, and
Okay.
that is a big chunk of why we're gonna stick with ActiveNet. Dave was kind of talking me through when ActiveNet was first introduced, and he said he basically spent those first few months being a computer help desk. He said, but now everybody has their own accounts, they're used to the system. He said as soon as you give the word, they know what they're doing from there.
I know it's too late, but I don't like ActiveNet at all.
I don't-
I can't get back in it.
I don't
See,
either.
I can't
Yeah.
either. I can't get in it either.
Yeah.
It
so-
was a dark day when I emailed saying, oh, I guess we'll stick with it.
And I guess to piggyback off, these two and then Jeff,
Mhm.
so how are we gonna tell the public versus me just showing up at a
Mhm.
shelter and then not knowing it's reserved again,
Mhm.
and then that.
It- It's gonna have to be some signage, I would think.
Yeah,
Some
absolutely.
signage, and I
Mhm.
think, maybe, I have seen at shelters before where there's just a
Mhm.
little plexiglass thing where
Mhm.
Yeah.
maybe it's, Leanne goes around on Fridays, drops in weekend reservation schedule, and it might be open. I mean,
Mhm.
I guess technically, if someone uses it and it's open and not reserved,
Absolutely.
it's still free, right?
Oh, yeah,
I mean, so
absolutely.
it's just kind of,
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not that you have to pay
No.
Correct.
to use it. It's just
Right.
if you want to make sure that
You wanna
it will be
guarantee-
available,
Yeah.
then that's why you would reserve
Absolutely.
It's an important distinction.
Well, and if the bicycle group comes in and they want to just sit at the park for a little while, but then
Oh.
they can see that the sign is there, that it's going to be reserved at
Absolutely.
1 o'clock,
right.
then you're good to go.
Mhm.
I think
Absolutely.
that's what most other communities do, and
They
I
do.
never hear about issues where,
Mhm.
Right.
oh, there was a, fisticuffs on the
There was a
pickleball
fight,
court
yeah.
because, somebody had court 5.
That'd be
and-
Central Park.
Yes, there we go. And maybe me going around on a Friday night will just intimidate everybody into behaving. I'm
Go-
rather tough,
go
you
with
know?
Go with that.
Obviously, it's a transition because the
Yes.
village isn't familiar with it, so
Yeah.
there's unknowns that are gonna take place. I
Absolutely.
do think there's that situation where it can be intimidating, so if you got a bunch of guys playing basketball, you say, wait a minute, we got
Yeah.
a bridal shower
Yeah.
here, so that's a little bit awkward, and we'll have to deal with it as we go forward.
Absolutely.
I agree, I like the changes you made, and
Thank you.
I appreciate it, because I was coming in with this with a little bit of apprehensive about just jumping into something else. I'm sure we'll watch
Absolutely.
the fiscal, but on
Mhm.
top of it, that I appreciate talking with Dave and getting the experience, because they
Mhm.
got a lot invested into
Yeah,
that.
he was
so that
incredibly
appreciate
helpful.
it. Appreciate you
Yeah.
stepping out.
Maybe Dave would know if he could print something out.
I would imagine.
It's on data, you can do anything with it,
Right.
right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
There's a way to print a print screen.
Yeah, or even just an email with, I'm fine giving out my number, so then if there is a conflict, I can be on call, or if I'm not around, I can punt to Candy or whomever's willing, yeah, Chief Jenny.
Andy?
Yeah, I just have one more question. You talked about the fee structure, and it's gonna be a flat fee.
Mhm.
Are the sports groups aware of that yet? Because I know that was one of the topics we were talking about last
Yeah.
month, was
Yes.
to let them know as early as possible.
They, as far as I know, they are not aware as of yet. But I will say this, Dave and I he was able to give me a good perspective as far as what would be a fair price. And, they're still gonna get a pretty good deal.
Yeah, because they charge the kids to play.
No, I understand that,
Right,
but they
no, I see
haven't
what you're
been,
saying.
they haven't been charged by
Mhm.
the community, and I guess
Right.
I just wanna echo what we had said
Yes.
last month was,
Sooner than
why are
later.
we waiting to tell them
Right.
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 I
that they
think
should?
I was just kind of waiting to hear how we would go about the booking before we said, by the way. So, I'm happy to get something out to them sooner rather than later. There we go.
That would be good.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And then just, again, like this, just keep it pretty broad and, not give specific numbers, but maybe just say, hey, I'll be reaching out in January and,
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
just letting them know that this
Absolutely.
conversation is coming would be
Mhm.
helpful.
yeah.
So that way they're not
I do agree.
blindsided in January and going, oh, what the heck?
Yeah.
And
Here's
if you
the
could-
bill for
And if you can
$5.
also work
Right.
with the VFW, because they don't know how to go into the system, I always put all their stuff in for them.
Yes.
But they
that's-
have all their,
Yep.
all their engagements, what they're due all year,
Mm-hmm.
that they'll have, you know, like the corn roast and all that stuff. They got their
Oh,
dates already reserved. So if you can just get a hold of them and say, hey, here's, give
Mm-hmm.
us your dates, and I guess when I was at the chamber, I just put them all in for them, because they, you know,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are
They-
there membership dues with the VFW?
are there what,
Membership dues?
for the VFW?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, well, so.
They're a non,
Because it would
They're
be,
a nonprofit.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just asking for an example I was hoping to get, because I couldn't think of a good one.
Mm-hmm.
But for your field, with the differentiation between the community organizations and the sports, and all it
Mhm.
comes down to is charging,
Mm-hmm.
like Girl Scouts charges.
That's
And,
true.
like if you have like the fire EMS
Mhm.
nonprofit, they charge, and if they wanna have. So worst case scenario, thinking like,
Mhm.
somebody getting mad about fees or whatever.
Right.
There might wanna be something a
Mhm.
little more delineated than just
Got it.
paying
Mhm.
for
Yeah,
members.
Yeah,
that's a-
I
that's a good
agree.
point.
Yeah,
It could just get, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
No, I think that's a good point.
yeah, and I think at this point too, we just wanted to, again, before we reach out to everybody, touch point with you guys, touch point with the board on Monday, and then we, I was talking with Martin a bit about this today too, and, we will kind of have a more formalized policy that we'll
Mhm.
approve and put all the language in so that it does
Mhm.
say, you know,
Mhm.
this is the definition of this community organization versus, you know, if you charge for membership or whatever, it's gonna be some kind of a tiered system probably that if you have X number of members or, you
Or even
use
just
whatever.
usage,
Yeah,
I think would
usage.
be, you know, if the
Yeah.
Girl Scouts have a one-day softball tournament or kickball tournament, that's different than, you know, a sports organization that uses 90% of our field.
Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
it's obvious what's different.
Right,
but someone could
right,
definitely
I do
argue,
agree though that
I don't
it's
know,
not
yeah.
obvious to all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Nice job, Leon, nice job.
Thank you
you.
very much.
Any other
Thank
questions,
you.
comments?
Yes,
Yes.
because you will be asked this. I only want one picnic table. Is it gonna be $20 anyway?
I'd be
Yes.
open to that, yes, yeah,
It's
Yeah.
additional, it's,
It's-
you know, anything.
right,
Up to
Well, it's-
absolutely.
1 to 2.
Jeff,
Yeah,
Jeff,
1 to 2, yeah.
So does that mean someone has to haul it out there? or what?
Right,
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think, Jeff? Minimum
well, she's
charge?
got, what's she got, $20 for one or
20
two?
for 2.
Yeah,
It's a pretty good
Uh,
deal.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just keep it 20 hours, just keep it simple.
yeah.
so it's $20 one or
I'm-
two.
We honestly, we load them up in groups of 2, so,
Yeah, so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
so it's $20 minimum charge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Just thought, well, that's gonna
Yeah.
come up sooner or later.
And I mean, and with that too, I mean, we're always out emptying the garbage on a
Mhm.
routine basis, and that's why I think having only
Mhm.
one per day is good, because that does become a problem if we have to call someone in on overtime to
Mm-hmm.
go empty
Right.
the garbage, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very true. Excellent. Thank
Good.
you very
Nice-
much.
Thank
Nice
you.
work, thanks.
Thank you.
So moving on to item 7, any unfinished business or discussion regarding,
You're on.
or actions?
Actually, do you have an update for the, student member vacation, or vacancy, sorry. I saw the picture of a palm tree up there. So, Dave Jameson actually did find 2 students who were interested in, being our student member for the park board, and, I can't find her last name, but there's a girl named Leanna who is a junior at OHS who, put in an application, so Martin will have her, recommendation, and Randy is giving thumbs up on the park board, or the village board agenda for Monday night coming up on the 19th.
Great.
So hopefully we'll have her on in January, and then the appointments do, they get reappointed in April, so hopefully she'd be interested in serving another
Another
school
year.
year as well.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave, for that, even though,
Yeah.
appreciate that very much. Item 8, new business or any items for discussion or potential action. Andy?
I have one, and I know we've been talking, the potential of doing upgrades or updates at the John Blanchard Dog Park and stuff, and one thing, in a conversation I had with Jolene Stinson, who's the director of Dane County Parks, They do have a cooperative permit program, but there's certain requirements that your dog park has to meet. One of them is it has to have 10 acres inside the fence to do it. Then there's, things where the same permit for the village would be good for the county and vice versa. But then it's who gets the money for it based on where it's sold type of thing. But when I look at the dog park in the village versus the dog park at the county park, I mean, there's a substantial difference
Correct.
there as well. So it's something to think about, in the
Yeah.
future. It's something, to have in the back of the mind, but
I don't put our dog park on any level at all with the county parks,
Yeah.
especially when that was put on much, much, much better land
mhm.
and with far better investment. I mean, I think the investment really for the original dog park was fence. only,
Right.
I believe. Here's swamp,
Yeah.
we'll put a fence around it. It's not a nice area down there, but it does provide an avenue for us to have residents of dogs. We've never gone out and checked for licenses.
Yeah, that
And
was
we
part
don't
of the
make a
first-
lot of money, in fact, yeah, we don't make any money on the licenses other than probably a handful of people that rightfully purchase them every year. But, yeah, we've tried to make some improvements out there, but it's not, it's just a little bit here or there. I know what you're saying. We can talk about it, but I don't know if it'd be, worth us bringing that up to Dane County standards.
Right, yeah, and that's where I was going. I mean, I know we wanted to do some improvements there, but I didn't know
Yeah.
what tier or what level of improvements, were thought of. Is it getting rid of the thistles, that's the improvement, or is it, which
Yeah.
those have been a lot better in
It's
recent
swamp.
years,
Yeah.
but
It's
it is what it is. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig.
It's
Right.
still a pig out there. That is so peaty soil out there, and it's just, I mean, the only reason it's actually been better in the last couple of years is we've had 2 dry years.
Right, because the
in a
water
row.
table's down. I know there was what was it, a tire swing or something else that was out there at one point, and that
Oh, yeah.
was, you know,
Tire gate.
yeah, so.
Okay.
I guess I'd just be interested, are the improvements, any improvement to the dog park, is that can be included in the 24 to 28? The 5-year plan, or is it something that would be separate? Is
We
it,
actually we put some money, I think, in this year's budget for some improvements, but it might just be some agility equipment
Sure.
or
I thought
more
lighting
spraying.
was gonna go
Hopefully,
up there.
lighting by the
We're gonna-
entrance,
The
right?
what?
lighting or the?
We're gonna
path?
add a street
Well, yeah, the lighting could be, yes, the lighting, I wanna be cautious about the approaches, cause that's a whole new deal if we want to try to make those ADA accessible,
Mhm.
with ramps and grades and surfaces and all that kinda stuff.
Yeah.
That could be well over $100,000.
Yeah, you detailed the issues with that earlier.
Yeah, yeah. If it were good land, I'd be like, yeah, let's work our way towards it, but
Mhm.
even,
We're parachuting, you throw 'em away.
I won't say any
They
people,
stink.
but
They stink.
people who have been in the village for a very long time in municipal government really said that was, not a mistake, don't put that in there, but it wasn't.
It was not the most opportune place to put it.
Wasn't an opportune place to put it, and like you said, we're always gonna be chasing
Mhm.
thistles or flooding or,
No, but I do
Black
see the
shoes.
importance of it, though, having
Yeah.
it in the village.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because there's people there that use it.
And that's why we've kind of like, people use it now, people that go there expecting it to be like a Dane County park will be disappointed.
Right,
And we always let them know that. I mean, that's just, when she says, it doesn't look at all like a Dane County park, I said, well, yeah, cause
it's not,
it's not.
yeah.
Um,
No, but I think, having that as part of the park system is important, because then again, it's that passive recreation, it's a different, it's a different group of people that are gonna use that, so I still think there is value in improvements, but it's just
Yes.
at what level.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also maybe something we can bring up in whether it's the focus groups or just some of the conversations with the park plan is, either what improvements that are doable would be most wanted there, more benches or
Mhm.
whatever it might be, or, is there a desire to have another dog park that's maybe on better land, somewhere else in the village that's smaller, that, would maybe, just help kind of have something on
Sure.
the other end of town. so-
Calleropin,
Yeah,
or
so,
West Side Park would
Yeah.
be a good spot. That's upland.
yeah, yeah,
I
so
could use the,
different options, but yeah, definitely something that there's a group of people that really care a lot about the park, and I know they've been here before, and,
Yeah,
Was there
Yeah,
plans
so
for
keep
another
it.
dog park in the Bergamot area, or did I dream?
no.
Okay.
not that
Yeah.
Was there
not
a
that I've ever
rumor
heard
No.
out there about
I-
it?
I
Condos in a
chuckle
dog
'cause-
park or something?
Yeah, no, I chuckle because every year, a few years ago, when we had couple old hydrants, I had the guys put them out there, and, cause dogs like hydrants, right? And, every year we have to lift them up, cause they keep sinking. I mean, they sink about this much a year, and, I know for a fact that if we didn't touch them at all, they'd just be gone in about 3 years. So, tells you what we're working with out there.
Interesting. Off on that topic.
Yeah. Are you gonna add for future meetings and assignments, the naming, J.C. Park naming?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's add that into there. Any other topics to add it in? So next upcoming meeting dates, we have Tuesday, January 10th and the 14th. Any conflicts with the board members?
I might in February, I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
So
that
because
is.
of that.
romantics on a park board meeting.
Well, we could go in person, go to
Can
a
I
park.
quote you on that?
Yeah, right? You put that on a Valentine's Day card.
Will the
Bring
new
some
building be
candles.
open by then?
Nope.
Probably not.
April, May,
It's always 6 months away. That's only
April?
4, yeah.
April's where we're at.
We're trying to aim for April, but there'll be plenty of notice, all of
Yes.
the public info, so yeah, we'll give you guys
Fireworks.
plenty
Open
of
house.
heads up, ribbon cutting.
Well,
yeah,
I'll probably
we're
come here
over there.
first anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh.
When it is,
Rocky,
right?
yeah.
Well, very good. Any other items for future assignments? Hearing none. We have an adjournment. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Did we even get a motion?
Don't need a
Look for
motion,
that.
just,
Do we
I
have
would
one?
love to make a motion.
Would you like to
sure.
do
And I'll
that? I
second it.
appreciate that. Well, there is some rules that, you know, if you finish your business, you don't have to do.
you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
Or you
that's
can
what
adjourn
my
by
morning meeting was about.
Yeah,
unanimous
that's
consent.
So
what it
we'll
is.
still go
We
with the
don't do that
motion. So we
anymore.
got Andy as a motion. We have a second?
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
second.
if the motion doesn't carry,
Judy's second.
Jamie, thank you.
I second, yeah.
can you not?
All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye,
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. So moved.
thank you.
Gavel.
Thanks.